Dr. G. Really? Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G, and tonight my guest is none other than Chief Pontiac, aka Brother Rod Hayes. And I didn't want to take any long introduction, so I played the short version and I'll play the long one going out. Welcome back, Chief Pontiac. Welcome back to Office Hours. I haven't seen you since last year. Around November or such. So how you been? How have you been?
I've been doing pretty fair for a square. Nothing to complain about except I ain't got no complaints.
All right. Well, listen, like I said, I didn't want to play the long intro coming in because you need no introduction. So no sense in me playing a long intro, and I could play the long intro going out. It'll be the outro. So thank you for those giving me comments about the hair. Thank you, appreciate it, y'all. But I reached out to Chief Pontiac and kind of you're always gracious and willing to come on, and I know you wanted to be here on Friday, but you had a previous commitment to when we celebrated and honored Grand Sheik's 79th solar return, and so I know that if you could have, you would have, but so we did Tuesday, and it is always for me exciting because I never know what we're going to talk about. I don't make notes or, I don't like to prepare for most of my, interviews. I don't like to write down questions. I like to think about things. You know what I mean? I like to contemplate and let the universe give me, or move me in a direction at the time. Because, 2 days ago, what I felt, don't feel that today. So, I appreciate that you like to field questions and so forth. And once I get started, hopefully, you'll just take it and run with it and give us, because folk don't want to hear me. We want to hear from you what's going on. And a lot has taken place since we came together last, which was in November. And I think it was right after the elections. But we did a program called we may have dodged the bullet, but the gun's still loaded or something like that. I don't know what it was. It was something like that. And so we were looking at the somewhat of the results of the 2024 selection, and and then now we've had a couple of months of that, and and that's not all we want to talk about, but that's just one of a lot of things that has been going on in these last 3 months or so. Yeah. So with that, where do we want to start? Where do I want to start? I know where I want to start. I'm just going to start randomly where my heart has been for a minute. And I was so excited because over the last, year, I finally kind of paid a little bit more of attention to football, even though I realize that it is a part of the game. It's not just a game, but it's a part of, when I say the game, I'm talking about the larger distractions that have been put together. If I were to go back all the way back to the so-called days of the Roman gladiators and the fights with the lions and the bloody whatever, the crowds gathering and getting all worked up, for those arena sports, just to provide what they call loosh for those that feed off of that kind of energy. And even though I realized that I paid attention over the last several months to football like I've never before, and actually sat and watched in my room and watched the game, and I was like, you watching the game and nobody's making you watch it? But it was something about this particular game that a lot of folks have been analyzing from a standpoint of the things that preceded it, the things that happened during it and so forth. So I want to get your take. You get your take on that, and we can go back and forth with other things that happened before that and after that. But to me, right now, the game halftime show with Kendrick Lamar, the messages, the things that happen. Let's talk a little bit about that from Chief Pontiac's perspective.
I think the biggest obvious factor is the Kendrick halftime show was bigger than the game.
Okay. All right.
Now, when we talk about Kendrick Lamar, you have to remember that he was supported in his rap career by all of the OGs from all of the sets around him. They all wanted him to focus on the music as a little boy because they wanted him to be the voice of his generation. Like we had Tupac, right? Before us, the 70s, they had Marvin Gaye, right? In the 60s, they had Sam Cooke. This generation needed a version, they spokesperson with the music. The dominant cultural shift in the music is the rebirth of hip hop. And in the rebirth of hip hop, remember, it was born in New York.
Okay.
But they don't know that it's an old gestation that came from old Mississippian clans. It's a tribal way to communicate using a common language, right, in a rhythmic format tied to the drum beat. And remember Tupac say, that's why I keep my shit beat bumping warlike. Because he was calling the troops to attention without calling the troops to attention. Nobody don't know what he doing. They show if they had attention because even in his absence 20-something years later, he's still the most loved of our generation. Even the ones that hate him love him. So he was our voice in the music industry to cover the field of arts and entertainment in the tribal communicational network. You have to go back to a couple years ago when all of the West Coast rappers honored him in the public domain. They given him the power to speak on their behalf for the culture. Now, after that, the next thing he did was he called together a bunch of OGs from all up and down the coast of California into Arizona and asked them to help him stop us from killing us so we can break free from the tyranny. Now, a lot of this stuff going on in the background, and you can only know by the result of when he come out to tell the story, right? So Drake playing the character of the dragon that gets slain at the feet of the great mother when she's giving birth to the child in Revelations. He had to be publicly slain, but he have to be caught between two pillars, which means Gemini. The first Gemini in this story is Tupac. The second Gemini in this story is Kendrick. Right? So he caught between, in the culture, he's caught between Tupac and Kendrick, which triangulates on the dragon, the Dracos. As above, so below, they following a star map. Now, the other Gemini, I think Kanye, I think he's a Gemini. Okay. So now he's caught between three Geminis. They playing out stellar events in arts and entertainment using tribal lingo to talk to the other tribes across the land to draw us together in unity to overthrow the invaders. The political other side of that is Trump. Okay. Remember, DC is directly across the land from Hollywood. So the mirror everything Kendrick doing in arts and entertainment, Donald J. Trump is doing it in political satire. Right? So it's one make a move, another make a move. That tell me what move the people need me to make, so that's the move I make next. Right? And the New York culture is the influence that Trump is reading when he's seeing the LA message back to the east from the west. And as the sun shines from the east, even unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Right?
Wow.
But the Son of Man is not the Son of Man. That's the derogatory term, because he's really the son of the great mother coming to get his mama shit back. Excuse my language. You're forgetting the more Dr. G show.
It's okay. It's okay.
Right. So then you got, it's all ties back to the Hopi prophecy where he said the man in the red hat will be the leader of the corporation. And while he's doing the tearing down of it in the open from the political standpoint, one of the chiefs, a shaman is what they call him, is going to be in the background following the tribal ways in order to restore everything back to balance. So the play out in the Super Bowl is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles.
Excuse me. Somebody said, I don't mean to interrupt you, but somebody said in the chat that Trump is a Gemini also.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what they said. So I don't know.
Yeah, you know, he was picked by Panthers.
Panthers.
And you know, did you know when he was in college, he was a prime financier of the Black Panther Party?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. He was called to a community leaders meeting about slumlords because his daddy had all of those slumlord properties that he inherited.
Oh, okay.
Right? But if you pay attention to what he did next, he stopped dealing in slumlord properties and went straight down into Manhattan and started building and buying.
Okay.
Right? So if you bump straight, we can use you. If you don't bump straight, we can't use you. We don't care about your personal quirks. Like everybody think you're racist. Right. But in the early 80s, late 70s, he was on the disco scene. Every one of the artists of the day was all hanging out with Trump. But he wasn't just hanging out with artists. He was also hanging out with activists. He was being seasoned in the hood, by the hood, so he can be our buck dancing cracker. So now he buck dancing. But every step he take, he making sure he hit a landmine. This is where they hiding it at. This is how they stole it.
Right.
This is how they swindling you. But don't worry about it, because every executive order to reverse a swindle, it go back to you. He don't want the money. He got his. He ain't in it for the money. Most politicians is in politics for the money.
Right. You're right about that.
Yep. You ain't officially in the billionaire club until you own a politician. Now you a power wielder. But you ain't a true politician until you got your first billionaire. Because you can only go so far without him. Because he's going to bring you something called the lobby. What do? Where they come from? They are the owners of major corporations around the world, international bankers, and warlords. And it's how you can watch the different people that's in the office at the time. You will know if they got a warlord financier, a banker financier, or if they have a corporate financier.
How do you tell? How are you able to differentiate?
A good example is Bill Clinton. When Bill Clinton came out, billionaire ran against him. First time it was Forbes. That's who he was trying to get past. And then on the second one, it was Ross Perot. Now, Ross Perot was getting so much traction that his life and his family life was threatened and made him drop out the race until he fall behind in the poll. Right? So then when he re-entered the race, he's guaranteed to lose because the people looking at him is, we can't have no president with no backbone. Trump came out gangster. They shot him in the ear. He ain't stopped campaigning. Just like 50 Cent got shot 9 times. Tupac got shot 5 times. Right? So we're seeing these different things play out in the public. When they do false flags events, that don't mean nobody get hurt.
Oh, I know that. What they call collateral damage.
Yeah. They don't mean that they didn't send a Manchurian candidate in there to do destruction so that they can say, look at this psycho, and make him off as a lone actor when the government was behind it the whole time. Right? The government has never been here for the people. That old we the people is stolen from the tribes of the land. But the whole concept behind it is they gonna scream our motto, land of the free, home of the brave. They gonna scream all our mottos and do exactly the opposite. They do everything to undermine the liberty and freedom of the people, but they screaming, people fight for your liberty and your freedom. But as soon as you fight for real freedom, they murder you like they did Martin. They shoot you down in your driveway like they did Medgar Evers. They catch you doing a speech at the Audubon ballroom, and the real players got to come out now because you can't use your puppet pale face. Right? When you tell them to stop selling dope in your neighborhood, like Father God Allah Pudding, they want to come put a ridiculous amount of holes in you. And they look just like him. Because they couldn't have slid in and out of that particular neighborhood if they don't look like the people in the neighborhood.
Wow.
If you an artist with a big mouth, they gonna send these dudes at you in the camouflage while the police to look out on the outside and say that somebody was trying to rob you and hope that you don't see who it was. Because then you can blame people that's closest to you, because normally if you schooled in the art of war, they normally use the closest to you to reach out and touch you. All this tied back in to the political satire in DC, in the arts and entertainment of Hollywood, as Hollywood is burning, but the land is freezing. Southwest Detroit right now underwater. They say a water main break. I don't believe it.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. I
don't believe that. I'll a bit more believe that's a water main break, as I believe that fire just started spontaneously in California. That's too much water. That had to be a big pipeline open.
That's really.
We didn't have water main breaks. I didn't see them my whole life. I've never seen one flood a neighborhood that fast. Normally, by the time it flood the street where it's broke at is where you saw the grounds crew from the water company digging. They come out immediately. They don't lag. The Detroit water, they ain't the best. They ain't the worst either. They'll get out there in a reasonable time to patch a water main break. That's not no water main break. Somebody opened up something that puts water on the land like that. I ain't falling for it. I don't believe it. But it's also coded in the 313. Southwest.
Okay.
Right? When you look at the Southwest, now you're looking at the Texas, Arizona, Florida area. Where was the Super Bowl?
Where did they have it? Where I was looking at
Was
it.
it in Louisiana?
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is where they had a
Now,
big flood. Where they
in,
had
in Louisiana, New Orleans is exactly southwest of Detroit.
Mhm.
All that stuff ain't none of that stuff coincidence. There's too many of them to be a coincidence because a coincidence is only two. Now we tying together 25 and 30 different things that's all connected.
planes falling out the sky, planes landing and flipping on the runway, crashing, going up 1 minute and exploding and going down the next minute. It's a lot of crazy stuff.
And
So
helicopters smashing into airplanes randomly.
maybe a helicopter, or maybe it was being remotely driven. Who knows what was
It
going
doesn't
on?
matter. It's still a helicopter if it was a drone helicopter.
Right.
Right? And then the president of one of them African banks that was over here, he died in a plane crash over here or a helicopter crash over here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm wondering if he ain't the one that was on the helicopter that was the remote control was took over from in the remote location to fly it into the plane, and they just separated the reports so they don't seem similar.
Wow.
Because they say it was supposed to have been somebody important on the helicopter. Military dudes is putting that on TikTok.
Really?
They say that they give you the classification of the flight. They mean that it was somebody on there important. It was him and his son came up dead. I thought, was it Nigeria? I don't think it's Nigeria, but it's an African country. And he was over here to tie into America returning to the gold standard and to do business with the new corporation that's on the rise, the new people, the return of the tribes. And that's why he was summarily dismissed from his duties. They don't never want us to make connections in a multicultural linking to overthrow the colonizers on all lands at the same time. But if we don't overthrow the colonizer on all lands at the same time, he's just going to regroup on somebody else's land and attack us again. We all have to be in on getting rid of the colonizers. Every tribe all over the planet. So you see him making moves in Samoa. The sister did the Hecka thing at the women's soccer tournament, the big women's soccer tournament. Came out there, led that Hecka, had the whole country. Then another one turned around and do the Hecka in the Senate building, and she's an elected official, really letting them know we taking this back. They use those things to talk to the other tribes, so we think that we can all sync our moves. Right? Everybody do their part. We get rid of these SOBs. And the first thing we got to do is stop down talking people when you don't know what you're talking about.
Right, right.
Right? And people that have been telling y'all for 50, 60, 75 years like Taj, y'all don't want to listen because he wouldn't have had to tell y'all that many years for you to know how to organize. But he got to repeat it like a broken record. Not just him. See Freeman Hill. Right? We had all of the other leaders that tried different stuff like Yahweh Ben Yahweh. We let the government tell us what to think about the leadership that's naturally rising up so they can insert the leaders they want us to have. We not buying it no more. And that's why I give this information that I have attained over the years away for free, because once the babies get a hold of it and they see the vein of information starts to reveal itself when you start digging past the lies, it's over. And that's where we at now. The babies got it. The music is changing in the culture. Kendrick Lamar is a representation of that. They not like us. They look like us, but they ain't us.
That's right.
And they passed off all these people as scapegoats. So you can turn on each other. Now we want to attack the Mongolians they brought over as slaves to try to replace us with. Some of them didn't want to help us. They took sides with them. You know them because they don't look like no regular Mongolian. They look more pale face, and they own casinos. Not all casino owning tribes are in on it, but all of the ones in on it own casinos. All of the broke tribes, look at their socioeconomic condition. If it's the same as the south side of Chicago, is it the same as Jamaica, Queens? Is it the same as Brooklyn? Is it the same as Philly? The socioeconomics tell you who they stealing the money from. Because the ones who ain't getting the money access is the ones that's targeted to steal the money from. The tribes ain't never been broke over here. That's all they was trying to do was live off our wealth as long as they could until one of the chiefs say, hey, this is what they doing. They're using this artificial corporation masquerading as a proper jurisdictional authority on the land. Don't none of them people in them courts belong here. Don't nobody call the police belong here. The only law enforcement that we ever had was the one appointed by the local people in the area. You cannot bring outsiders in to police my community because that's warfare. That's occupation of foreign territory. If you don't know what an occupied territory is, you need to investigate it. Then you'll understand why the police look like they soldiers, because they is. They work for the crown. They don't work for us. That's why their job is to serve, protect, and break a brother's neck. That's why they were shooting us in the back in California that made the largest two clans on the West Coast wake up at the same time. The only problem is that they didn't know that they ain't the enemy to each other. They the enemy to the one they was brought here to destroy, to get off the land. Now they get it.
Oh, wow.
Now they get it. The OGs out there is reorganizing. What we gonna do, OG? We need to get some bread. Hit them people in the pockets like they did us. Make them shut down Nordstrom's. Make them pack their gold stores up. Because when you send in 1,000 or more, they can't do nothing. All they got, police can't even arrest nobody. It's in the law because of the 92 Rodney King situation. Yeah, when during the Rodney King situation, they told you about all of the burnings and stuff that the so-called people was doing, but they didn't tell you about the dirt the police was doing. The police was using the cover of the riot to execute key people in the community that they thought had control and influence and label them as dead drug dealers and label it as a drug-related crime. And Iran-Contra proved that the government was the ones bringing in dope. They was flooding it into our communities. And now you starving because we didn't cut off your socioeconomics. You're not allowed to get a skilled trades position because you don't look the part. Right? So when they systematically shut us out of finance, what we supposed to do? The tribal way is to get it off the land. Get it off the land. If you can't get it from the dirt, you ain't from over here. And in this case, get it from the dirt, landed them into a whole bag of snow, the snowman effect. Bill Clinton, CIA code named the snowman. Brought more dope into Arkansas than you could possibly imagine. He brought more dope into Arkansas than Big Meech ever seen. And used the police to transport it. And everybody in Arkansas know. All the tribes watching, they just ain't saying nothing. But you got leadership down in Arkansas waiting to tell the story about how the snowman snowed them in. And all that stuff is related. The ice is on the land. That means ice is on the land. I mean, Big Mama home. And when we about to have a heat up, that's called the King's Son effect. It's a heat up. It's another song in the culture that's telling you what to look for. You looking for the heat up after the freeze, because the queen of the north is coming to restore the queen of the south. The ice princess has become the ice queen. She's the dame of the north. And it's just so ironic. Notre Dame is where they hatched that slave plot. That's why the cathedral looked like the slave ship, because it was an academic programming application. And the place that it was designed was struck from with a ship. They got pictures of the ship sitting right there watching it burn. And then they brushed it out, airbrushed it out on the news. Because that's where they hatched that plot. It was an academic plot. It was an educational paradigm in order to enforce some stuff called racism.
Yeah.
One of the biggest fallacies ever given to man as a tool to divide and conquer in order to maintain the artificial caste system based on skin color. So when he telling you about when he doing all of the play out in the arena, he's reenacting a story that's being told, and you got all of these people that did good breakdowns of it. B-Dale got one, Phase One got one. I got a couple of sisters that dropped some, you know, and a lot of people that went in and started translating the story, but don't just take there for the Super Bowl halftime show.
I did one too.
Did you? I didn't know you done one.
I did one too. It's out on Facebook. I sure did. I
did. So when you translating the symbolism, the more people's translation you look at, the better and clearer you can see the picture. Because you need all of those perspectives. Those are different people looking at the crime. You can't take one person's side of the story when it's 22 witnesses. And you only going to accept one witness out of 22. You left 21 of them unaccounted for. But when you see what all of them saw, now you can look at it again and see what you see for yourself.
Right. Because it's like anything that's happened at a crime or something, all the witnesses see it from their perspective. And somewhere along the line, if you look at them all, you're going to find some continuity in there. You may find varying perspectives from whatever angle they saw it, but there also should be some points that are in, very congruent and hey, see, everybody said that. Matter of fact, I'll share what I wrote if you don't mind. So, it wasn't no big deal, but I called it a baby boomer's perspective on Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance, because I was seeing all these people saying it was the worst Super Bowl halftime, this and it was so much stuff, but I kind of looked at the folks that were saying it, and I said, those who got it. Those who didn't, well, they not like us anyway. They're mad and confused because this wasn't the usual satanic, ritual-filled, sex magic, spell casting Super Bowl spectacle they've been accustomed to. Kendrick Lamar presented an in-your-face message of truth, restoration, and liberation from the grip and control of the colonizing forces that have, quote-unquote, traded places with, quote-unquote, us long enough. Like many of the old, quote, Negro spirituals that were actually used to send hidden message that a run for freedom was imminent, Kendrick Lamar took advantage of their most widely watched ritualistic event and flipped the script to speak truth to power, and I put the system on their nickel before the whole world. That was payment enough for Kendrick, because they were saying, you don't get paid for the Super Bowl. And I said, game over. Those looking to be entertained have but to turn on the mainstream news or The Simpsons. By the way, I said I'm an almost 70-year-old great grandmom, and obviously I got it. So that was my response to the people that said it was terrible. I didn't think it was. From my perspective, and other people saw different things, but that's what I saw.
117 million people tuned in to watch the halftime show. Did not watch the game.
And, well, you know what? Before you said it, some folks were saying that they turned it off at it, but they didn't, because a lot of folks, if they were off, was because they knew at the halftime that the Eagles had won and the Chiefs had lost too. And I mean, I think
because it was a blowout at the halftime. It was like 20-0. It was a blowout at halftime.
Right.
But what's what they're not telling you? They saying that 107. The way that they slanting the story, it looked like they trying to say Kendrick ran off the people that normally watch the Super Bowl, but that's not the case.
I don't know.
There's two reasons that the halftime show 117 million people left the show. Trump left and Kendrick was finished performing. We ain't come to see the ass end of the mule as he leaves in the barn. We seen the butcher when he went in, and we seen the one who was supposed to carry the top of the carcass away. So we don't want to see the ass end of the ass going out the back though. We came to see Kendrick butchered them, right? And now Trump is just carrying away the carcass with the audits. He done sicked his doge on him, his doggy. Right? So it don't matter what they doing now. It's over with. It's just going through the process. They can't give it back to us until they know what they got to give us. They gotta know. We gotta know. They gotta tell us what was stolen, what was misappropriated, what was patently lost. They say is lost. And that we ain't got to force nothing. You remember back in 2008, after the banks crashed, they started having all them emergency city managers come in and try to draw all these cities out of bankruptcy. And they were selling off the properties and everything from the city because they was corporations. They needed that's what Trump is to the federal government. He's a liquidator. You need a CEO of a corporation to come in to liquidate the assets. But before he can liquidate anything, first he had to settle the bankruptcy. That means any of your property that get all your shit back. So now we panicking because we see all of the American finance and paid for UN properties rolling across the land. And the United States was the biggest financier of the United Nations, trying to keep the other world under the influence of the New World Order, because we didn't know that the New World Order started when Columbus landed. And they labeled this the New World because they was creating a military outpost. The only problem was how they gonna convince these badass tribes over here, the brave and the free, to come and fight for them. They have to make themselves look legitimate. So they use their uniforms and their uniform system. That's straight Machiavellian. They look legitimate, but they ain't legitimate. They frauds. They de facto. They masquerading as the government. They are foreign police and agent, and they have to figure out through the educational system how to keep the children from growing up and taking back what's rightfully theirs by blood and by right. And when I say by blood, that means your blood tied to the land. That means your mama mitochondria came from a specific geographic location on the land. That means that the mitochondria that she tied back to the first woman that emerged from that land. Because the mitochondria way older than the Y chromosome. That's when all the interlopers start trying to sneak in. Freaks from other places. Demented and twisted psychological makeups. With a misrepresentation of what the great mother is. So they want to try to usurp her. So they put the Pope seat under hers. Because can't no man sit on Big Mama's seat unless his ass fry on the spot. So the sacerdotal seat of the earth, the sacerdotal seat of the land. The sacerdotal seat of the land was in Philos, the love, Delphi, of the Delphi priestesses, the oracles. But they told us it was the city of brotherly love.
Philadelphia. Yeah.
Blatant misdirection. David Copperfield at his finest. And when you start reading the culture on the land and the most loved, most respected across the land, you understand why we are all doing our individual parts from where we at. And then we co-sign each other in order for the people to know who doing the work. Because if you don't know who working for you, you're going to ride with who working against you, telling you they working for you. But it's just a difference. The ones that's down with you ain't trying to exploit you, but the ones that's telling you they down with you, exploiting you, is the enemy. So you heard what Farrakhan say about Kendrick, right?
No, I didn't. What did
Well,
he say?
let's listen.
Set a new standard. He freed rappers to come on up. He's the boss. He's the boss. Now, when the rappers are free to say it like it is and say what they feel and teach their people through music and rap and song and dance, the cultural revolution is on. Kendrick Lamar set a new standard.
That was long before the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was long before the Super Bowl.
Oh, that wasn't okay.
Long before the Super Bowl. Now, when Kendrick came out the halftime, what did he say about the revolution?
Televised. About being televised.
But it won't be televised on TV. It's playing out on social media in everybody's face. Taj told him I was the closer, and I've been closing this stuff, and they want to take and throw rocks at me while I'm building their castles.
To see, because too many, there are people that that mistakenly are trying to put out, and it was even somebody said something in the very beginning that you are trying to take Taj's place. You ain't never been trying to take Taj's place, and Taj has never felt like you've been trying to take his place. And I wish the folks that have that mentality would stick to doing something and saying something positive. But nevertheless, like you said, they not all like us just because they look like us.
Yeah.
They not.
But even the one, the biggest fallacy ever told us is we all supposed to get along. Who told us that? Look, the tribes, this is what we call run that fade. But we did used to kill each other behind it. Right? We didn't used to lose a good potential future leader because somebody can't take their ass with them. Right? For what I say about people that think that I'm trying to replace Taj, if you want your 90-year-old mama to get up and clock a clock and go to work every day, that's the type of person you are. If you think that I'm trying to replace Taj, how you gonna replace the irreplaceable? He didn't already left his footprint, and my shoes don't fit. I can't walk in his footprints. I can only stand on his shoulders. I can only continue to take the baton and run to the next level. I can't replace him. He's irreplaceable. He just as irreplaceable today as Noble Drew Ali. And then I told the sister last night on a different show on my live, I was like, we're not gonna even understand the importance of Noble Drew Ali until we get rid of the dirty Moors. When we get rid of the dirty Moors, and they gonna get got rid of, because they know who they all is. But when you get rid of the dirty Moors, then that whole Circle 7, them oral statements and prophecies, that stuff gonna have a whole new meaning to you. He was telling you in a tribal way how to break the codes. And they started putting dogma in and taking terms like a depth chamber to make themselves sound like they deep. Like they got some secret superior knowledge that you can't attain because you're not as smart as them. That ain't what the prophet brought. And y'all not going to even understand the glory of the prophet Noble Drew Ali, the glory of the messenger Marcus Garvey, the glory of the messenger Elijah Muhammad. Y'all not going to understand until we get done getting the enemy out the way exactly what they was trying to tell us, because now it's all mixed up because it's above most people pay grade is the simplest way to put it. Everybody in the tribe is not supposed to have the same skill set. all of the chiefs across the land is not supposed to be performing the same function on the same problem at the same time. You ain't gonna never make progress, right? If you need to dig a man, you can't have everybody with trying to dig the same size hole at the same time. You got to send them in waves. That the ones going in first starting the hole, the ones come behind them making it a little bigger, the ones behind them make it a little bigger. And everybody just as important as the first man and the last man. This is how we saw it in the tribes. This is why when we had problems with each other, we know our temperament. It shows in our culture, right? We'll love you all day, but don't piss us off. We don't do that. We rather give you a hug than punch you in the face, but we had no problem punching you in the face if you need it. And sometimes we're going to get punched in the face too by one of our own. They're going to punch us in the face because we out of line. And now they made all of these restrictions on the culture and told you it was the law. You let your enemies educate your children into believing that the enemy is their savior. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
they trying to tell you now to take your child out of school, but you keep sending them.
Right, with the Department of Education being scrutinized, and folks are all up in arms, and they really are not even talking about getting rid of education, even though they should be getting erudition. They're talking about taking it out of the hands of an organization, government organization that has nothing in mind except to program your children in whatever direction that they're going at at a given time. Like I said, they've added in all of these various genders, and you can be this and you can be that. None of it has been for erudition. So they don't know that taking it back to the state level at least gives them more of an opportunity to be more involved in what their children are learning, if at all. But they're I saw the sister on when they were doing the hearings for RFK Jr., and she says, what do you mean Black people don't need the same level of vaccinations as other people? I mean, and he said, because your antibodies are stronger, and blah, blah. She had a fit. She didn't even, her brain was so washed that she couldn't hear that he was saying, you all are stronger. You don't need all this stuff pumped into you. But she said, I won't be voting for you. But of course they did confirm him, because they just kept showing the handful that were talking crazy and greasy, instead of the fact that folks probably realized that he's going to go in here, like you said, go in and why do we have 27 ingredients in a cereal over here, and over in the other countries it may have 3? You know what I mean? Why do we have red dye, yellow dye, blue dye? Do we have
and
stuff
all that stuff you can't pronounce?
Right, with stuff that they can put use in a car, and that's in your food, and all of these different things that he's talking about. I'm like, well, how crazy do you have to be to think that that's a problem, that somebody's trying to clean up the FDA and all of these things that have been approved for, safe for human consumption? And maybe they are human for humans, but not for us.
Listen, the war effort, silent weapons, is for quiet war. Why do you fight a quiet war? The only reason you keep the war quiet is because you don't want the people you wage war against to know that you wage war against them.
Right. Yeah.
When they put a warrant out, it's a ad warranto continuum. That means it's a continuation of an issued warrant. And that first warrant was signed by the president to get us off the land so that the U.S. corporation could expand west, which brought about, they was paying for our hair. They wanted to know it was the woolly hair. That's where the scalping was. They got us believing that the tribes over here was scalping them, and that's not what was going on, because they got the newspaper clippings that had the bounty records in the newspaper of one of our scalps, what they go for. First, they was paying for a whole head. But then they start having too many heads in their coffers. So then they would say, well, we don't want the whole head, just bring us the scalp. All this is in newspapers from San Francisco from back in the day. You can look this up. You can send AI and ask AI about the government's campaign to exterminate the Indians in the West. We was called outlaw tribes. They did not do business with us because we didn't want to do business with them. But they expanded their corporate reach onto our territories all the way from coast to coast, from sea to shiny sea. What they call their flag? Old Glory. That's an old victory. They thought that they was going to be able to oppress us indefinitely. They believed that none of the tribes was going to see how they was moving as long as they maintained their uniform commercial standard. When we had the Pony Express that they turned into the U.S. Mail, we rode horseback in tribal regalia. But now they give you all of these fantasy Western movies making you think it was the paleface that started the Pony Express. Pony Express is old as this land is. Ever since we've been here, we've been having couriers sending messages from my big mama to your big mama. Half the time they didn't even know they were sending the message. She said, I need you to go from, let's say, for instance, my big mama in Mississippi and yours in Louisiana, right? And I tell one of my people, I say, I need you to go buy 5 gallons Louisiana Cajun stew, right? No corn, right? So they go down there and they order the stew, and Big Mama down there is telling the Big Papa, hey, go get Uncle Joe, Uncle Willie, and Uncle Sam and send them back with them. So when they send them back with them, the no corn meant no celebration. This is business because the corn is festive. Your big mama down there in New Orleans knew what my big mama needed because of what she sent her baby to ask for. So now these 3 uncles come back and tear up the town and then go back home and don't nobody know who they is, where they came from, and why they did it. But they'll know next time when they get smart with my big mama that she knows somebody big mama that's going to send them boys. And in the case we in now, my big mama said, baby, leave no stone unturned, get all of it back. My mama said, you heard what Big Mama said? I said, I heard what Big Mama said. She said, don't leave no stone unturned. I said, I won't do it, Mama. I'm 3 years old, don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I never knew what I was talking about till I got 50. And then all of the codes start coming in. Everything my mama told me meant something. Everything my big mama told me meant something. Every time they asked me something and I gave them an answer and they acknowledged that the answer was correct, they knew I was supposed to read the codes. So my mama programmed us all to read codes. My whole family, I could code drop something right now in the conversation. It won't mean nothing to nobody but somebody in my family. We've been talking in code since I can remember. My mama been teaching me puzzles since I can remember. She gave me all of the codes as a baby that I was going to need to translate what was going on the land so that the rest of the tribes, big mamas, know when I'm explaining what happened on the land, hey, listen to him. Not because I'm better than nobody, but my big mama talking to your big mama through me, and I don't even know what I'm telling her. I'm just telling what happened. And all our big mamas is using me to talk to each other in the conversation. And the term for it in modern terminology of metaphysics is called light code talking. The purpose of the light codes is to make certain information click in the mind that your mamas and grandmamas gave you that you didn't know was relevant, but now it makes sense. While our grandmamas kept saying, we got Indian in us, baby. Now, don't you forget it. We ain't no Africans, and we got Indian in us. If we ain't Africans and we got Indian in us, what the hell that make us? Then they say we got Indian in us, they talking about what your soul made out of. They ain't talking about what they telling you your body is. They telling you your body from Africa, but your mama telling you your soul is an Indian from here. But we don't know what they talking about until we get to become elders. Now I got to translate it because I got a unique ability to translate what my big mama told me into a set of instructions to follow in order to deliver the message. I don't got to know it all. I just got to know enough to know how to get you to see your part. That's the same thing Kendrick doing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything going on in the hip hop culture has a reason, even though it might look tacky, it might look what we call street ghetto, right? It still got a purpose. It's still a message in it for the ones who know that the culture is serious. And when they forget that the culture is serious, something serious happened in the culture to remind them.
Wow. There's a couple of questions that I starred that one that popped up like 5 or 6 times, probably from the same person, individual, but I'm gonna I started so I could bring it back. Wanted to know that said that there was something that you put on your site about Elon 14 words. I'm not sure.
14 flags, the dog whistle.
Oh, it's okay. They put words. So you said 14 flags.
Mm-hmm. It was 14 flags. It's not Elon Musk post. I think it's it might be an Elon Musk post, but it's 14 flags that was posted at 11:14. And the dude that's talking about it is saying it's a dog whistle. A dog whistle is a set of codes, a call to action that only certain people are supposed to respond to.
Oh, because that's like the silent whistle type thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean specifically anything that you can expound on. It's just that somebody's saying that a code's been sent out. That
well, you got to look at what's going on, and then they'll tell you what the code means.
Okay. Now I don't know how old it was, and it didn't look like it was new, but I saw a clip. I want to say it was a TikTok clip or something, and it was was there a woman, and was there a young woman and 2 young women, or maybe 1 young woman and 1 young man? They were saying that they were the children of Dr. Malachi York or something, and they were admitting that they had been coached to give
they said they set him up.
That they set him up. That's what I'm saying. But they
didn't say they got coached. They said they set him up, and they went. Yeah. I don't want to sugarcoat it.
Okay, but I before I go there, but I also had a conversation with a brother who's been on my show. Maybe if he hasn't been on for a couple of years, but who's very familiar with this case also, who had told me a couple of years ago that where he is in Atlanta, he specifically was present because he's in the music industry, and he said that his son was there at the studio and had these young ladies with them that he was telling them what to say. The promise he was going to take them to Disney the World, I guess the one in Florida. He told them that if they got the story right, if they were able to, whatever they were going to say to the authorities, he said he was there when this son, whoever, I guess I don't know if his biological son or what, was coaching.
Jacob York.
Yeah, well, he was I'm calling coaching. In this case, he was coaching these girls as to what to say. But then, like you said, the video I saw, the women were saying they lied. They set him up. And my question is, why, if those kinds of things have been publicly, those declarations and statements have been made, isn't that enough to, well, I know why, but I'm going to ask anyway, why hasn't that been enough to reopen the case and and to release Dr. York?
This is the continuation of COINTELPRO.
What does it
Remember,
take from us? I mean, what's it going to take from us? I mean, do you think because we've been too
we have
silent?
to restore our tribal jurisdictional supremacy on the land. The tribes are responsible for restoring back the balance to the land. And you're going to know this because the statistical crime rate is going to plummet. You're going to have the OGs and all of the hoods explaining to the youth about how we got infiltrated, how they turned us against each other. And the youth going to take it to the streets and they going to talk among themselves and they going to support the elders in the oral tradition of reclaiming the land. It's in the process now. If you watch the algorithm, 5 years ago when I started this, it was probably me and Dane Calloway and Karimu Ahu are the only ones telling the story. Now when you look at the algorithm, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everybody know they not like us. They not like us. Everybody know. Everybody know that you even have political officials coming out calling the former slaves Indians because they was never slaves. We was prisoners on our Big Mama's family farm that they named the plantation. That was because they used it as a makeshift prison because we was already there. We was living in, we had, until you get married off and go set up your own household, grown people, they had to go stay with Big Mama because they had to help with the family functions, the family farm. And then, some of them stayed with Big Mama up until they was up in age. Some of them built a house down the street, a couple miles down the road, so they could come every morning. All of the stuff, barbecues, we've been doing that for hundreds of years, thousands of years. That's nothing new. They call it making an offering, a burnt offering to the gods. That's not making no burnt offering. That's a barbecue pit. We're cooking the meat. This way you got the pit masters. You still got the brothers been doing the same thing that their ancestors been doing down there with the in-ground pit, with the steak over the pit, rotisserie cooking, hogs for a big function or a cow. Back then we ain't had cows. We was using bison, elk, and moose. But now because they didn't killed off so many bison, elk, and moose, they didn't depleted the resource, and then they gave us bovine beef and pork in its replacement. Pigs not from over here. Cows not from over here. It's not compatible with the original tribal blood types for us to be eating that stuff without developing certain key and known ailments of the day. Alzheimer's, high blood pressure, diabetes, and dementia. They really want the saturated fat to give you Alzheimer's and dementia, so you can't never tell the youth what you remember. And then they want to drug them up so that they can have ADD, so that they can't understand what you're telling them because they don't even know what they doing because they so drugged up. All that stuff is warfare. It's biochemical warfare. It's open warfare. It's food warfare. Everything that we did naturally, they either villainized it or monetized it. We had a whole different species of yard bird that wasn't a chicken. The chicken is the closest thing we got to it. Right? But we used to have turkeys more than we had chickens. Big Brontosaurus drumstick on Big Papa plate. Yeah, they took all our culture and they turned it on us. They used it against us as opposed for us to use it for our betterment.
Yeah, I saw something else too that was interesting where they were showing, I think it was Vanessa Williams was doing search on her family, going back to check her roots. And of course, she obviously has mulatto in her family, but her great grandfather looked just like us when she finally went back and found, and was a free man. They showed that he was a free man. He was in the legislature. He was in a lot. He wasn't mulatto in he wasn't, but he actually was serving. And so one of the, I call them the vanilla people, that was a historian where she went back down south to check, was saying, well, there was a time when people like your grandfather were serving in the legislature, and they were doing XYZ and all that. But at some point, I think he was in the last set. After that, they started doing things to make sure that they weren't in. They were no longer.
Yeah, they started passing laws to block them out and replace them with pale faces.
Right. So they were doing stuff like, another brother was sharing with me that he had done some research, found some paperwork out of Alabama, and wanted to get a certified copy of it. But he said in this paperwork, he said that in order to vote, and this was like in the 18 somethings, you had to be a landowner, and you had to be able to pay the poll tax. He said there were only 700 and some in this record, pale faces, so to speak, who were actually able to vote, but over 4,000 of us that actually voted back then, because they were landowners and they had the funds to pay that. So a lot of these things, like I said, the story that we get is that, we were all in slavery, and from the boat to that. But the fact of the matter is that how they began to get them to, when they formed the U.S. from the British Moors, they became the British, formed the United States, and then conned some of our people into joining in with them and giving up their birthright. They didn't need the 14th Amendment, because they already voted. They were already landowners. They were already this, but all these things changed.
Because you got to remember, it was still a war. The North
still naturalized. Why did they naturalize when they were already the natural Aboriginal people of the land?
Yeah, this goes back to, we the largest heritable landowners in the history of the country, but ain't nobody telling us where we get the land. How we get all that land if we wasn't already here?
Right.
We were massive landholders the whole time because we didn't believe in selling land. They used the sweetheart swindle to marry Big Mama off, poison her, and turn Big Mama house into the big house. Then they go hire pale faces as the property managers, as the farm managers. That's why we ain't like the house nigga, for real. And then once the pale face started realizing what was going on, he's taking these people's family property and he's turning them into bond servants. Where did they come from? Where did pale face come from? What was the socioeconomic condition of 80% of Europe from 711 AD to 1494? What was their socioeconomic condition? Everybody in Europe wasn't royalty. They were delegated to villages that the crown used at their disposal for using their babies as food and sex toys, using their women as concubines and their harems without their permission. They just go in and take what they want, right? And this is why they make all of those stories about Europe and what was going on in medieval Europe, and how when the king's people came, you terrorized the villagers. And now they looking at this same person that sent them in Europe to terrorize the villagers over here, trying to send them in to terrorize of somebody else's village. And they like, nah, this is not sitting right with us. Some of them went along with it, but a lot of them didn't. And then when the ones that was brought over here in indenture, as they call it, because that's what they called it, because they had paperwork on everybody that moved in Europe. Just like they got paperwork on everybody now in modern America that move. If you sovereign, ain't nobody supposed to know your every move. That's just basic human respect. Sovereign people respect sovereign boundaries.
Right.
But when you in bondage and servitude and you don't know it, everything you do is suspect because the captor always in fear of you waking up and taking over and leaving him where you at, the bottom.
What about yeah, one other thing that he found in the records. There was something about they wrote they wrote a law, the pale faces wrote a law as they were forming their so-called government, that within a year that the indigenous people, which were our people, had to share their land with them, a portion of their land, or if they hadn't done this within a year, that they were going to completely take over the land, which is where it was said in this paperwork where the term sharecropping came. So they wrote their laws and their government, but it shouldn't have mattered to us, but except it had something to do with our land. So
That's what Martin was talking about. When they moved the European peasantry in and undergird them with a foundational structure, they didn't know how to farm the land. Only people that knew. And to this day, the only ones, if you wasn't taught by the people over here, you grow crappy crops. So that's why they paying most of the farmers not to grow crops. It's more farmers paid not to grow crops than sell their crops on the open market.
I do know that. Yeah, which is crazy. And
that's because they want to be able to use the food as a military weapon.
So that's why
the resistance always is predicated on two things: beans and bullets. Feed the people, protect the people. Beans and bullets. Anywhere you go in the world, if you're part of the resistance, all you got to do is listen for that phrase: beans and bullets. What is it about? Beans and bullets. Because that's what it's all about. Feed the people, protect the people. The people don't know how to protect themselves when they don't know who the enemy is.
Right.
And the enemy use every stratagem of war to oppress the people. Oppressed people can be deceived into thinking they're just above oppression because they have some semblance of mobility. Just because you can move around on the land don't mean that you ain't under their thumb. You got to dismantle the corporation, restore the republic in order to move back to the common law, which is the tribal law. Because the corporation stole it from the republic. We didn't do business with the corporation. They did business by themselves.
Right.
They assumed the jurisdiction by order of the crown. They established the bar association by order of the crown. They even came over here under the what they call the doctrine of discovery, with discovery rights by order of the Pope.
The Pope. It's like any place you discover, like that's why they claim Christopher Columbus, who is questionable whether or not he even existed, discovered America. But there are a lot of pieces that I've been running
the biggest
into.
hole in that story, Dr. G. Where did they say Christopher Columbus was going when he bumped into America? Did they say he was going to India?
India. When he going to India? Or someplace?
You know what the problem with that story is? That story had to be written in the 1900s. Because India was Hindustan up until the 1940s or 50s.
Okay.
It wasn't called India.
Well, if truth be told, we weren't even called Indians. So, that I think where a lot of folks might, differ with that, we Indians is because that appears to be a label also, because just like Africa, over in Africa, most of the folks, someone from Africa is not going to say I'm African. He may say I'm Ghanaian, I'm Nigerian, I'm, whatever country he hails from. But just like us, like I said, we don't know, I guess, specifically what we called ourselves, but we were tribal and clan-like in our, I guess how we live. And maybe, just maybe, the $5 Indians, so-called those Indians, would actually try to model themselves after how we lived in that, or maybe they were taught how to do that. but they weren't us. And somebody mentioned about the treaties. The treaties, it seems like that any treaties that were really signed were not signed by us, between us and them, but the $5 Indians that the fake ones and them. So
Listen,
those aren't even valid.
Ain't no chief nothing name on none of them papers.
Right.
They got all of the names that ain't from over here on them papers, because they was making agreements with other Europeans about the dissemination of our territory under the doctrine of discovery.
Right.
Right. They created something called squatters' rights, which is an extension of something called a salvage right. The squatter right is what they use to put the European peasantry on the land. So they're going to tell us the story narrative in the manner that make us think that everything, all this power is coming from pale-faced Europeans that was powerless in the whole time before they came over here. How they going to come over here and assume power? It's not possible. Somebody lying.
They had help.
You have to. Or they following somebody else's order that's making them out to be the fall guy.
Well, yeah, they had help, because I was told that in I was studying something that said at one point, because I've seen pictures where the paleface and the Aboriginals were working side by side in the fields, like whether or not who was what is what, but you see them both working. And then at some point, just like they have that thing about when were white people created. At that point, they were not white people. They were Europeans from wherever they came from, and now they were here as indentures and
white
whatever.
people don't got nothing to do with skin color.
No, I know, but the white
it's a legal, it's a legal terminology for a reason.
Right, the legal terminology, they decided to create that, and then to create a schism, because at one point we were working side by side in the field, almost, if you will, as equals. And then when they said, look, they look like us, let's elevate them, call them
especially
something.
The Irish.
Yeah,
the Irish been over here longer than Columbus.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had something to do with Ireland ourselves, because you look at, what was it, the last, what was it, I'm talking about Ireland, Scotland, running the snakes, so-called snakes out of St. Patrick, running all the snakes, which were no really snakes there, but that was
the priesthood.
Right. So that was code.
They came over here.
Right. The last
Okay,
Scotland.
so the word Irish is from the word Orisha. Scotta was an Egyptian princess who was given the domain of the territory of Scotland and Ireland. She had a twin sister that was with her named Scotia. Scotia was caramel color with freckles and dark red hair. Scotta was buttermilk complexion with bright red hair. They call them gingers.
Were they mulatto, or were they what were they?
They was Irish.
Oh.
They their own bloodline. Scotta and Scotia was the Gemini sisters, the last born of Isis. They're the last ones to be established as the daughters of Isis, with the Gemini sisters. This is why Gemini is prominent in the recovery. When Scotta came over here, they changed her name to Brigitte. So we see her in the Orisha pantheon as Maman Brigitte. But you see her in the Catholic mythology as Saint Bridget. And then they confuse you as to who she is with the Catholic Church, because their design is to confuse you in order to rob, steal, and kill. And that's the continuation of ancient Babylon. The biggest trick of Rome was to tell us that Rome fell. It just turned into the church and changed its direction of war. Still was war.
Right. Wow. Yeah, it's a lot. There's so much that is being uncovered though in these days, and I don't want to say last days or whatever times they're, because
They the last days of the enemy rule.
well, okay, well then last days. There's a lot but there are just so many folks that are still in that space of trusting government or believing the lies that they have been, we've been fed, all our lives, so to speak, through school and through, church and all of these other organizations that have been designed to put us in some kind of a program, a trick bag or whatever. So what do you see happening in these next, 3 years and 10 months of the Trump, reign regime, because we know he was selected. So
it's going to come a point where these audits are going to be finished. They moved the date for the World Fair from the day after Memorial Day to, I think, sometime in 2026, which means that they behind on the work. But the 1 year celebration is still scheduled to happen. They just changed the date that they gonna start it on. That's recent.
The 1 year celebration
they call it the 250-year independence celebration. But what is really independence after 250 years of oppression celebration?
Do you think there's the cancellation or whatever of Black History Month was an affront, or
he should have canceled that bullshit?
Well, I didn't have a problem with him. I mean, with it myself personally,
I don't need no. That's all a strategic political move, because you got to look at some of the moves that he making. He don't even like. You could tell by his facial expression. He hard to read. That's why he Agent Orange. But you could tell when he don't like something because of how he try to brush it off on the comment. He don't really want to discuss the stuff that he don't agree with. That he doing. He doing it. He don't agree with it, but he's still doing it. I don't care. Get the job done, sucker. Tear down. Drag them out. Bring all these dirty players out in the open. Let us see all of them.
You're right.
Everybody in the Senate and Congress, they getting audited too. We want to know how a person with a $265,000 a year salary that started off in the ghetto is worth $2 billion. You don't make enough money to be worth $2 billion. How you worth $2 billion? Ain't no significant investments. Where you get all this money? No, all of the politicians have a standard of living that far exceeds their income bracket. That means they're getting some money under the table somewhere.
They have
it's gonna come out. It's gonna come out.
Yeah.
I heard a senator talking to another senator one day, and he was telling them, he said, if you ain't corrupt when you get to Washington, just stick around a couple years. You can't get shit done.
I have a friend that's a friend that's there, and just became from let's see, what are they now, senator. And I was shocked because I thought sure after she got there the first year as Congress that she was such a wonderful person that it was going to be so dirty in that swamp that she wouldn't run again. She ran again for a second term and won, and then she just became the senator replacing Carper. And I was like, ugh, they got her.
You can't swim in the swamp and don't get swamp water on you.
I know that.
But she could be being used by the good side too.
I hope. I hope. I
Because
hope.
remember, they put that bill back in November up for the continuity of government in case of over 100 senators and congressmen. And then they turned around and the Brunson case got over 300 and some senators and congressmen that don't have oath for office.
What's the Brunson case?
Brunson case is the challenge to those people after January 6th that was senators and stuff. They started pulling people's oath of office and seeing who had them on record and who didn't. And the ones who don't have an oath of office on record, the Brunson case saying that that's treasonous and they should be arrested and that they should be stepped down from their positions.
Mm.
But they can't have an oath of office because they central casting. They're not actually there to perform the part, and they're not actually the person they telling you they are. They're just using skin mask, deep fake, and Hollywood effect in this political satire. It's a cover story. The Brunson case is the plug. Whenever they want to pull the plug on the scam and let everybody in on it, they rule on the Brunson case. Right? They just announced, they dropped on one of the channels, somebody sent me a tribunal timeline. Who was arrested and when they was arrested. And all that stuff old, but they got to put it off as new to justify the Biden-Harris farce of a 4-year rule. That was just there to buy time for the level of work that needed to be done. It wasn't going to be enough time in 2 Trump terms. So you put a Frost term in the middle and you let him run his second term, and then he come in, and now he come in like that girl with her Hannah Montana with a wrecking ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's swinging that wrecking ball now. Now all of the dirt done. The sleeves was rolled up on January the 6th. When the Republic flag was placed behind the Admiralty flag, seizing the battleship. But we don't know what we're looking at. We just think we're watching some kind of theater perform. They all accusing Donald Trump of trying to start violence on January 6th, but you got them on video discussing how to instigate the crowd to violence. Pelosi and them. How to agitate them. But they accusing Trump.
Right.
We got the video of the police inviting people in, but they said they stormed the building. And we supposed to believe that though. That's the audacity right there. That's some audacious stuff. They showing you the video of the police leading the people in. Nobody that's belligerent or violent. They all laughing and having a good time and interacting with the police. All of a sudden, they stormed the building. And people fell for it. And people end up getting locked up on some BS because the public spectacle had to be maintained because the people fell for it. Now we finna inoculate them. Since they didn't catch the cold, we gonna give them the cold. If they dumb enough to take this, I got some swampland. We gonna sell the whole world in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
It's just a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. But we have to, I think we have to do a better job. When I say we, I'm talking about us. And like you said, I agree that nobody said that everybody has to get along or I don't know what you said, like or get along, whatever you said.
We don't have to we don't know if 2 people don't get along, just don't go where the other one at.
True. Right.
Don't go looking for the people you don't get along with because you're gonna get your ass whooped.
It's true. But I'm saying, but we need to work on each if each one of us worked on ourselves, and did the inner work that everyone eventually should do. I feel we come probably to more of a conclusion of unity, just because of the self work of the going in and doing, as they say, the shadow.
That's a key and critical aspect, because there might be some people over here that's mostly African that believe they native because they never done self work. We don't mind African people being over here. We just don't want them to think that we're not taking back what's ours. And then if they can go over there and help take Africa back, because it's going down.
Well, yeah, they're inviting, folks to come to, I believe, Ghana and so forth, and be able to get citizenship.
Gotta change their mind.
You said change their mind about where they come from.
I'm serious.
But I know, but I'm just saying the inner work, when you do, your self work, that makes a major difference. You don't have time to fool with other people's business and to try to impose your will on others, because you got to work out some the ish that's in you, the programming that's in you,
the art and science is staying in your own lane.
Your own lane, the trauma and so forth that we have suffered with through the lives. People don't see this. A lot of folks don't see that, know that they've been traumatized. Because when I have a dear friend, I'm not going to name her name. She knows who I'm talking about. And she hears that. And she says, I had to get, 65 years old before I realized, that I've been lied to all my life. She's like, 65 wasted years of being lied, I mean, and every time I talk to her, maybe she's 66, however many years, she tells me all the time, and I'm like, sis is traumatized. Talented is, AF, but traumatized to the fact that all of as the truth is being revealed, what she's been denied. And how many others, even with me, when I had my awakening, my spontaneous awakening in 2010, at the end of 2010, it was traumatizing to an extent, but I didn't stay there. You know what I mean? Some folks will wallow in their trauma. I started, surrounding myself with folks that would help me, to really understand what had happened, and to know that maybe I could be a part of making that change and helping other folks come out of the trauma. So that was my difference. I'm not saying that I'm clear of everything, but I'm saying I'm not stuck where I was when I first woke up. I'm not still laying in the bed of my, and being of despair of how they lied to me. So they lied. Now, what am I going to do to change it? How can I help other people?
You got to go through the stages of grief and the detox of realizing that your whole life that you've been fed a bunch of BS.
Right.
The most traumatic thing to me, I'm recovered from it now, but nothing was more traumatic to me than finding out that the people behind this stuff, they blacker than me. That hurt my feelings so bad. I had to do the math at least 400 times before I would even accept that I was right. My feelings was but it caused the trigger effect. As I recovered from that realization and verification process, it made me see beyond the blood in my eye. Now I'm staring at the moment of truth like the bull at the last stroke of the bullfight. I could see the matador beyond the cape. I could see the fraud behind the curtain. I could see Geppetto pulling Pinocchio's strings, telling him to tell these lies. Mm-hmm. My feelings was hurt, but as I recovered from those hurt feelings, I started to have a different position and perspective of looking at the devil in his face. And everything that they did to us to separate us, I got to work to undo that. I don't know if I'll be successful. Because there's still going to be some idiots going to hate somebody because of the way they look.
Mhm.
Right? Never knowing that the enemy don't care how you look. He coming at both of y'all ass. It's the same enemy. The enemy that sent them to do the dirt they didn't want to do, that was because they was trying to stop their babies from getting ate. Right? Then some of them was willing participants. Some of them to this day hold that viewpoint. That's okay. Because the guillotine affects them. I just want to be the one pull the lever. I want a whole bunch of guillotines connected to one lever so it'll make a song when it start going down the line. I call it my guillotine concerto.
Off with their heads.
Off with their mucking heads.
Well, it's just, like I said, my heart has always been, for trying to help folks, come through something, as a former pastor and all that. It's always about helping folks come through. But when you have to try to go back and get people out of something that you had a part of putting them in, you know what I mean? You told them that this was.
That gives you a higher sense of duty to want to do it, but it makes you more frustrated doing it because you remember you used to teach it.
Yeah, that's the part.
And it comes with a sense of shame as you trying to tell somebody that I was tricked too.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't have told you that bullshit. The mind control, the mental trap, the illusion that they paint, it's a compelling story. The greatest story ever told that ain't true. They tell you it's the greatest story ever told. They just don't tell you that Josephus Flavius wrote it. And that it was never a religious book, but it was a whole theater played out before they had TVs and radios in the play format. That's why you got the verses in the Bible. Because all of the verses is somebody remembering their lines. The more verses you can remember, you can play any part if you can remember the whole thing. They use the same format in order to create Hafiz in Islam. Because the ones who gonna rise up to be the leaders of their clan, to try to expand reach and join the other clans and to get the imposters off the land, they have to control them, so they use the religious paradigm. Christianity didn't work on all them people in the Middle East. They was too volatile. They needed a volatile savior. So they saturate him with all these Catholics in order to influence what they need him to teach. So now he got to go to his Bible scholars in order to verify his revelations, in order to make sure that he translating correctly what the Spirit is telling him, and they telling them the wrong answer on purpose. But really, we don't know what he said because he ain't write shit, because they said he was illiterate, right?
Okay. Somebody did, but wasn't him.
Now remember that they burnt up every known copy at one point of the Quran in the Crusades. They purged all of the mosques because regular people didn't have one. Only the imams and the sheikhs had them, and they knew where they all was at because they wasn't mass produced. They was produced on different parchments and leaves and clay tablets or whatever kind of format, but that's not, so it's easy to keep track because you know who the printer was, and the printer know where every copy he sent out because he know how many he made. Because he might only make one every 2-3 years because he got to take his time and write each letter because he don't got no printer. That's what made I think it was the Coverdale Bible so popular, the first mass print, or the Tinsdale Bible, the first mass print production of a Bible. So if they was all doing it by hand back then, they had to know the calligraphy, which is the penmanship required as a scribe to be able to transcribe something. We keep looking at ancient stuff with modern eyes, and that's why we keep getting confused about what we're seeing in them stories. You got to look at ancient things with ancient eyes and then adjust your view for the future. When you know the history of what's been going on, you realize, okay, Josephus Flavius was the student of a guy named Origen, known as the first century Christian philosopher. Why his books ain't in the Bible? Because his was wrote before Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Episcopal, any of that. Revelation. Origen's book was before all of them, and he was the foremost authority on Christianity in the first century, and none of his books is in the Bible. That tell you that it ain't got nothing to do with Christianity.
Mhm.
And that's why the Coptic Bible and the regular Bible, they're not the same. They don't say the same stuff under translation because you got two different groups of people talking, one passing off as the other. But Al Kupt, the leader of the Coptics, he know. They rewrote our stuff and tried to pass it off as the doctrine of men. And then it wrote it right in the book. These people draw near unto me with their mouth, but their hearts are far from me. Teaching as commandment the doctrines of men. Where they getting their commandments from? Out of a book that some man wrote. Who wrote what chapter? They don't know. The church don't know. Nobody in the church know who wrote none of them books. They get credit to the people that they name them after, but some of the people they named them after, not even a name. It's a title, like Daniel. Daniel means the judgment of God. And that's not a name, that's a title. Right? David, the beloved. That's not a name, that's a title. The sheep herder's boy. All of these stories is being adopted and stolen from ancient cultures to be told to us in just a way to make us attached to it by genetic memory. You know the stories, you just get it out of order. They got the stories out of order in our head because we don't know the holy drama. We don't know the confessions of Mott. We don't know the principles of Mott. Right? We don't know none of the sciences that was common to us back in the day that irons everything out and make it as crisp and clean as starched blue jeans. The culture don't lie though. It's gonna play out in the people. They're gonna tell the same story that was the ancient stories in the correct format using a modern method. We ain't never stopped singing. We ain't never stopped rapping. We ain't never stopped beatboxing. We ain't never stopped making beats on stuff that don't even supposed to be made beats on. Now you see us in Central Park, we got buckets, pots, garbage cans. We got pencils and cups. It's in us. We naturally have, you can't deny what's in you because it'll drive you stir crazy. The harder you fight being yourself, this tie back to the self work, Dr. G. The harder you fight being yourself, the harder your life fights you back.
Yeah.
But sometimes embracing being who you are requires you to fight to become your next level. Because you need to require struggle in order to project you forward a little bit stronger. As soon as you stop taking things personally, then you can deal with yourself. A lot of time people be assuming somebody said something and they meant something that they never said or meant. But somebody thought they heard something, but it didn't what they heard. Now they delivering the story that ain't even what it was supposed to be. That then started some stuff that wasn't never supposed to happen. Between some people who are never supposed to cross paths. You tying up other people's lanes with your BS. So we got to reverse engineer all of the stories. Why are they telling us this? Why are they choosing to tell us these stories as history, religion, and spirituality and whatnot? Why are these stories selected? Because I'm pretty sure, based on how many people I see around me living their life experience, more stuff was happening than this one story. That same story might have been happening somewhere else to somebody else that it had nothing to do with the story you telling. So now you tying the holographic effect into something. It's trickery. Tricknology of Yakub, the underminer. The one who sat up under mama's table that didn't belong there. Trying to keep everybody that was rising up to the top from getting there. Using every nefarious method known to man. And we still here. Baby kids, we don't die, we multiply. Big Mama told us don't stop till the fight over. We'll do 1,000 reincarnations and we won't even think about it. We eternal beings. We got lives to give because we got other lives to live. And that's why they say it's better the one who finds himself after he dies, you know, he lives in it. But the one who dies when he finds himself here, he lives eternal life on earth.
Well, I have
That's
some
why.
questions. When you finish that, I'm going to have some questions that I starred that I want to, if you don't mind, because if you couple more. Here's one. I was asked to ask you about Toussaint's last name, origin of Toussaint's last name, and for if you could speak on the Bayou connection.
The Bayou
Gula.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. I'm not real versed in the Bayou. I can't go into that. I'll be making it up.
And I appreciate that.
Is Toussaint last name? Anybody can look the name up and get that. That's like it's the person that carried the name that was more important than the name itself. It was the actions carried out by the person that made the name be the moniker to remember the person that did the work of the day. Those ancestors like Toussaint, like Duddy Bookman, that fought for the liberation of Haiti, right? They spirit transcends the name. But you use the name in order to remain, in order to have a timeline to look at. The work was more important. The name was just telling us what energy was moving around, was wearing at the time he was making his moves. Right? It's the same with Tuscaloosa. Badass dude. Right? But we still remember his energy. And we see his descendants walk the land. We recognize that energy. So it's more to the Haitian Revolution than I'm qualified to tell, because I had an overview of it. The reference I give people is the person who I listen to for my Haitian history is Baina Baello. She's a Haitian from Haiti with ties and roots to the land. And she came over here to teach us about exactly what he's asking or she's asking. That's her job. She do it for a living.
Okay.
And she give it away for free.
Okay. All right. Here's another. Why are they flying in gold from all over the world?
You want your money back? You want your wealth back? If somebody got to go get it, they've got to come back home. What Malcolm say? Everybody happy when the chickens come on the roof. Seizing and returning assets. That's what you're looking at. Seizing and returning assets.
That makes
Remember, France came over here in the 70s and told America to run that gold. America told Millie Mouth Nixon, say, we are no longer under the standard of gold, but we can give you some of these fiat greenbacks.
IOUs.
We'll settle up at the end, buddy.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another.
Now, it's no coincidence you got auditing going on, and then you have massive gold returns coming at the same time. The Federal Reserve notes is under the scrutiny of the audit because the Federal Reserve note, the fiat currency, you heard what the Supreme Court ruled, right? The fiat currency is not money.
Well, we know that. But there's a new recent Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that Moore case, Moore versus United. That was because that one wasn't real. I understand.
The Moore case was
that seemed like it wasn't really filed, but it was like that was put out as if it was it had actually been
settled.
Settled, but it wasn't. It wasn't.
Yeah. Sometimes stuff settled. Listen, sometimes stuff is settled tribally, and it don't show up in the system.
Well, he wasn't.
I know. It's a whole nother system. But the reason why I said that is sometimes people put out information in the coded format.
Okay.
You gotta remember, they liquidating the corporation's asset. The Republic's responsibility is to have an accounting for all our stuff when they give it back. So they have to audit it. Remember when it was time to shut the corporations down, the Pope called all of the wealth for the Vatican. Now America, the Republic under Donald J, is calling in all of their money. It's time to pay up. It's time to pay the piper. The bill always comes due. It's checkout time. Get my money to the house. I need to cash my chips. We win, they lose. They not like us, but they thought they were slicker than us. But they ain't know my uncle was Slick Willie, a modern day hillbilly. All their secrets get exposed by their activities. If we don't be narrow-minded and believe the hype, because a lot of things is dogmatic. Anything that tells you just to influence how you feel about other people that you don't even know, that's a control measure. But something that tells you, that inspires you to be the best in who you are, that's a liberation measure. And you can feel the difference in the energy because it feels better to celebrate than to do the player hate. I'd rather buy you a cake than watch you fall in one. I feel better about being able to give you a cake than to watch you destroy your cake. Some people can't wait for you to destroy your cake because it ain't their cake. They just waiting, and if they can help you, they're going to try to trip you so you can land face first in your cake. They don't want to see you win at no cost, not because you did something wrong, but because they think if you win, that mean they lose. That mean they ain't really on your team.
True.
My whole team is shooter. If one shoot, we all gonna shoot. So I gotta keep them all separated in different places. Can't none of them be two together at any given time unless something gets shot up. Because we don't play about each other. So to maintain the peace, you separate the pieces. Everybody know their position. All they got to do is be themselves, and they're gonna be playing their part. Then when it's time to square up, you know, ring that bell. It's meal time.
Couple more. What does or do the Jesuits have to do with all this?
The Jesuits is part of all of the secret societies infighting for dominance and supremacy and control over the information that control the spiritual development of the masses of the people. The Jesuits were actually rebels of Catholics in the Catholic Church, trying to overthrow the Catholic Church from the inside so that they can give everything back to Isis, the Great Mother. So this is why you got 3 different popes, because you got 3 different denominations or 3 different jurisdictions playing out. And the Pope is the highest imam on the land. And the Pope is the highest rabbi. How can that be? Because he's the highest Christian too. Then next they announced the death of the Pope. The death of the Pope means the death of the Catholic Church, because they already said he was the last Pope.
This one looks like he's on his last leg.
They just gave the report. He on his last leg.
Oh, so I said it looked like what's the pictures I saw.
But really, that's just the cover story, because the Pope was an android. Pope Francis, they've been taking him apart, put him in the box and slide him under the bed at night. They only bring him out when they need him to be seen. Because the pedophile they used to that they use as that image, he been electrocuted.
Okay, we're gonna get off of him. Okay, all right. Here's it. Okay, somebody says, "What's up with the white people walking down the street with Germany flags? I guess German flags in Ohio."
That's controlled opposition. It's an antagonist method. They was put there by the police. It's not even a secret. Not only were they put there by the police pretended not to know why he was taking them there. And not only did they pick the spot where the school would be, would make the parents most offensive. It's controlled opposition.
Wow. Okay. Here's one other. Okay. Can you ask Big Chief High Priest Rodney Hayes will hit us with a class? Well, can't do class, not with this time. On mitochondria and how it affects the sons. I think he'll knock it out the park. We'll come back and do that.
I've done a couple of them already.
Oh, you have? Okay.
I done quite a few. I did some on Young Elder channel, and I got some on my Instagram and my Facebook.
Okay.
I got quite a few of them where I deal with that.
Okay, what are your thoughts on the Baron, Trump's youngest son?
That's my boy. That's my boy. He's learning to do a couple of things. He's learning the code flip because he's really good at it. Because he told us to listen, but we ain't even here when he dropped the statement. It was coming. It was coming. Then he dropped a statement about the corruption of the corporation and draining of the deep state. But most of us missed it because when he told us to listen at the inauguration, we wasn't really paying attention. He's a good student. He's a student of he's an intelligence student, like military intelligence. He's getting really good. He's learning character development, how to carry yourself like you know, the most loved prince. Because if you carry yourself like the most loved prince, it's gonna make all the people love you.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't do no dirt and live your life. And they're gonna treat you like you gold. It's the nature of the people. So he getting all the lessons. He's really good.
Uh,
I pin his award myself.
well,
Give him, give him his Oscar.
well. So I'm gonna. I know this is probably lengthy, but this she didn't put this in here 10 times. Don't do that, y'all. Y'all don't have to put the same thing in here over and over. Please don't do that. That only makes me irritated. I'm just saying it. I'm just gonna be honest. You know, somebody put the same question in over and over and over, like, yeah, I'm not answering my, and I might not, but I'm just gonna, let this be the last one. But so how do we get our land back with them on it?
How did they get it from you with you on it? With the stroke of a goddamn pen. And ta-da, it's fixed.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Somebody
They
said,
told us they stole our land. I keep seeing the land when I look out the window. I don't know what they talking about.
somebody said this, charge them rent and lease them with arrears.
Treat them like they're on child support.
Right. Something like that. Right. But listen, thank you for, it's 2 hours in. I'm not gonna keep you. I would love to, but we will save something for the next couple months and then come back on.
Oh yeah. I always have a bar when I come on with you, Dr. G. We click.
I know, and I just love having these conversations. I love it because I really don't have to say a lot, even though I do interject every now and then. But because you could, I just had to turn turn you on. And then once you get started, you on your own. So yeah, so all you 943 plus folks on here, I hope you press like. I didn't say anything, but I hope you did like. I hope you did share. I hope you did, will support us. Folks are asking about Grand Sheik. Grand Sheik is coming along. He is in the healing process. Thank you for asking. Thank you for supporting him. And thank you for your continued support of the house of Reawakening Minds, of my guests that come on here. I want him right back here beside me, but not before he's feeling better, doing well. So in the next months or so, maybe couple months, you will be seeing me with other guests to fill up, make sure I'm here on Tuesdays and Fridays. At least try to do at least one Friday a month, if not the two that we normally do. But he will be back, y'all. So for those of you who care, continue to send that love and light and energy to him, and we appreciate that. Appreciate it to the utmost. And again, Chief, it's like I said, it's always an honor. I'm honored because I can pick up the phone and call you. So but I got and my I have something that I'm going to send you, but a sister friend of mine who is an author, she sent me the PDF of her brand new book, and she said, Sister Laverne Thomas L. has a brand new book out, and she said, could you make sure that Chief gets a copy of this? And I'm going to I think it's
She haven't started printing hardcovers yet.
no, but it's called Big Mama Stargate, and she wants you to it's called Big Mama Stargate, and I'm going to send it to you, and
Yeah, all right, check that out.
Yeah, because she said yeah. Well, it's the book our relationships need. Actually, it says 101 questions you should ask yourself before becoming emotionally, sexually, or financially involved with another person. Workbook. It's called Big Mama Stargate, but from Big Mama's perspective. So we'll send it to you, get it over to you.
I like to check that out.
Okay. Listen, y'all, thank you so much for being on here with us. And I'm doing better. I'm doing better when people, try to be disruptive and crazy in the chat. Yes, I do need a moderator or two. So I don't even know how that works. You know what I mean? But I would be great if somebody else was in there, like knocking them off the platform instead of being me all the time. But you know what? I don't mind if I have to. I like block parties anyway. But thank you so much for your attention, for your time, for your love, for your feedback, your positive feedback, and even the negative, because it made the rest of y'all have to stand up and say, look, we're not standing for that. So listen, Oak L, if you did not, you must have just logged in if you were asking me right now about an update on Taj. I just gave it. Go back and replay this and get to the end, and then you'll hear me what I just said. I'm not saying it again. Love you. Not say it again. You must have just logged on. Honestly, did y'all just hear me talk about Grand Sheik?
Yep.
Like not 5 more minutes ago? All right. Love you. I'm getting ready to play the long version out. How about that? Make sure you support our brother, the Chief. He has his Cash App. Make sure it says Rodney Hayes, because it's some other folks like they did us on us. Other people made fake stuff that was close to House of Real Awakening, even used their picture. And then I ended up losing the Cash App, my Cash App, House of Real Awakening, my Cash App, because people were creating other stuff and, defraud. House of Real Awakening Minds does not have Cash App. So please do not send anything that you think might be us, because it's not, because we don't have it. So we have what you see here, Zelle and PayPal, but we don't have this other stuff. Thank you so much. And again, thank you, Chief. Love you to life.
Okay. All right.
All right, y'all. Thank you again. Thank you for being on here tonight. All of you. Love you. Woo. Dr. G. Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. 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 Dr. G. Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me.